back to another video in our web development course. In this video, we're going to be looking at some of the various color options that we have in CSS. So it should be a fairly quick video because I'm actually just going to give you a lot of documentation that you can read, and then you can learn a lot of this on your own. But just to give you a quick overview of that, let's go ahead and get our boilerplate code here. And inside of here, I'm going to put a div, and then inside of that div, I'm going to put a couple p tags. So we'll just say, and here I'll say p.p1, and then let's copy that a few times, and we will go ahead and maybe have 4 of those. The top one, there's a couple different ways that we can color code here. So I'm going to say p1, p2, p3, p4. Actually, let's not do it like that. Let's just do name, and then we'll do RGB. We'll do RGBA, and then we'll do X. And then after that, let's copy this one just a couple more times. Whoops, wrong button. It's Shift Alt and then down arrow to copy those lines. We're going to say HSL, and then finally HSLA. So the first thing that we're going to do in here, we're going to say color. Actually, here, I'm going to select all of these. And then once we have that, I'm going to say color by, and then the top one is going to be name. The next one is going to be RGB. The one after that is going to be RGBA. And then this is going to be X. This will be HSL, which stands for Hue-Saturation-Lightness, if you're not familiar with that. And then HSLA, and the A is just the alpha there. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and link our CSS file. So I can say link CSS, and then that's going to give us our style.css link. So let's go into that file. And now, basically, if I save this file and reload our web page, we've got all of these colored by name, RGB, RGBA, X, HSL, and then HSLA. But we have to actually color these. We can't just write that there. So if I come over to the styles, I can say name, or I can say rather dot name. And then in here, I can say color. And the quickest and easiest way to color it is just to pick a name out of this list. And if you want, you can scroll down and read all of these if you want. But if you want a full list of these names, I will put this link down in the description for this video below. But this color page on W3 Schools, if you go to color names, this is going to be the entire list that you're going to see in CSS. So we can pick any of these that we like. So maybe, I don't know, fire brick looks good. So there's our fire brick color. And if we save that, you can see now we have that color that shows up there. The next thing we can do is by RGB. And RGB, again, if you come over here, they have a whole page in the documentation on RGB color. And basically what it is, if you don't know, every color that exists that we can see is made up of red light, green light, and blue light. So RGB is just the numbers that you're mixing here. So if we say color, and then we say RGB, now inside here, I can set any value I want between 0 and 255. So if I just say 255 red, and then 0 for green and 0 for blue, now if I save that and come back to my document, you can see that's a bright red color. That's our red primary. But then I can set this one to 255 as well. So that's going to be all red and all green, which is going to make that yellow, which makes it incredibly hard to read on that white background. So what I can do is actually I can select this color next to the RGB, and VS Code is going to give me a nice color picker here. So I can change pretty much any color I want. If I want like a dark purplish color, I can pick that and hit enter. And now if we save that, you see we have that dark purple color reflected in our code. So if I was to copy that line right there, and now we're going to do RGBA. So if I save that, you'll see that now RGBA has that same color, but there's a difference between RGB and then RGBA, and it's obviously the A, which stands for alpha. And the alpha value, if you come back here, is just going to be, oh, does it even show us? Let's see, here we go, RGBA. So the alpha value is essentially how transparent do you want this color to be. Instead of having a value between 0 and 255 like the colors, you can see here that alpha value actually is between 0, which is fully transparent, you can see right through it, and then 1.0, which is not transparent at all, totally opaque. So if I set this to 0 and save it, that'll disappear because you can see right through it. If I set it to 1, it'll look exactly the same because this color already is totally opaque. And then if I set it to maybe somewhere in between, so like 0.5, now it's looking pink, not because it is pink, it's still that same purple color, but it's essentially 50% transparent, so the white is coming through the background of that. Another way that you can do this is by setting it, you can set your color by hex. So for this one here, if I come in here, again, there's another whole page on hex colors here, but essentially it's RGB again, just using hexadecimal numbers, which if you don't know what hexadecimal numbers are, go Google it or ask ChatGPT or something. And basically it's a base 16 counting system instead of a base 10 counting system. That's more efficient for computers. But in here, you've got this hashtag and then followed by 6 numbers. And basically your format for this is going to be color. And then if you want to do a hex number, you do a hashtag, and then you do red, red, green, green, blue, blue. So the first 2 numbers here are going to be your red. The next 2 are going to be the green. And then the final 2 are going to be the blue. So if I did 0000FF, we should expect this to be blue on our document. And if I save it, sure enough, that is definitely blue. And if I, instead of doing 00, if I do 00FF00, now this is going to be green. And there you go, you can see that's green. And if I decide to mix some of these, maybe if I wanted to mix red and blue, which should be a nice purple, I'll do FF00 FF, and then save that, and I guess red and green is a pink. So that's what you get there. Or sorry, red and blue is a pink. Anyway, that's the color that we get there. But you don't have to know all of these by heart. Please don't sit down and try to memorize all of the different color codes. If you need to get a color code, all you need to do is come here, find their color picker, and you can select any color you want. It'll give you all of the shades on here, the different shades, all the way from 0 to 100% light. And it has right next to it, this number is the color code, the hex color code. So if I wanted to take like this dark green color, I can simply copy that hex value and then paste that value into here, save it. And sure enough, now my hex value is showing up with that same dark green. And then the same thing for the, for HSL. So HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. So if you come here, again, there's a whole other document for the HSL color, and you can change your hue to wherever you want. And essentially here you can see the hue is basically going to be your base color. So if you want it to be a nice blue, then pick blue. And then your saturation is going to take it all the way from fully and like totally blue to more of a grayish. And totally blue, right? If you're looking in the real world, you don't often see this value, but on a computer screen, it's totally fine. But typically you'll see maybe around 85 or 90%. But if you want to take the saturation all the way down, it won't actually be blue at all. Now it's just a gray color, but you can put that somewhere in between. And then the lightness just controls essentially exactly what it is, the darkness of the color. So if you slide this all the way down to 0, you are going to get essentially black. And if you go all the way up to 100, you're going to get white. And somewhere in between will give you kind of a color that you want. And whenever you pick that color, all you have to do is copy this HSL here. And you can do it using this H, the hue, is on a 255 point scale, and then the other two, the saturation and the lightness, are going to be on a percentage scale. So you can set your color that way if we just copy this field here and then paste it into our code here. Now you see we've got our color set to blue. And then if I save that, sure enough, it shows up as that same blue. And finally, the last one that we have here is going to be our HSL-A, which, just like the RGB-A, the A on this is going to stand for our alpha. And again, that is going to be essentially how transparent or how opaque your color is. So if I copy this same color, paste it, and then put a alpha value of maybe 0.4, save that and look at it. Now you can see that's like a light blue gray color because the white background behind it is making it look gray. But also we can change the background color as well. It's not just text colors. Really, we can change the color of anything. So we have, if you look in our HTML code, we have all of these p tags inside of a div. So if I want to target that div, I'm just going to come down here and say div. And within this div, I'm going to say background color. And if we set this background color to like maybe a gray, and save that, you can see the exact size of the div there. And another thing we can do is add a border around that. So if we say border, using the shorthand, I can say, maybe just to really emphasize it, 10 pixels is going to be how wide it is. And then after that, we have to pick the style. So I'm going to say solid, which is going to be a solid line as opposed to like a dashed line or something like that. And then after that, I can say the color. So if I want to set that color to red, now if I save that, there you go. We've got that very bold red 10 pixel border all the way around. So really any HTML element that you're playing, you're going to have pieces of it where you can change the color, if it's the background, the border, the font color, whatever. And I definitely encourage you to go through this W3 color website and read a bunch of this documentation, because it'll really help you to understand kind of the theory behind the colors, because you don't, especially if you're going into like UI design and you want to make things look good together, you can't just, like what I'm doing here, throw gray on with a red border and then green text on there, because that's just not appealing to look at. You need to know what colors go well together. And for that, you can go to color theory, and you can go to color psychology, and you can go to the color schemes, and you can check out the color trends of the year. So this is a really helpful and a good website to check out if you're interested in learning more about how you can use colors to kind of change the theme of your website and just make it a little more custom and give it that custom feel for you. So hopefully this has been a helpful tutorial for you and a helpful video. Definitely check out that documentation, and then we will see you in the next video.